Hi, welcome to the gallery at Lakeland Community College. My name is Mary Urbis. I am the gallery director and exhibition curator here in the gallery. Today I'm going to be doing a video walkthrough of the 12th May Show at Lakeland Juried Art Exhibition. The juror Janet Block, who was from Indiana, she chose 89 artworks by 60 artists from a field of 455 artworks submitted to be included into this exhibition. But before I continue, I feel compelled to thank some people because this show, out of any show that I do during the year, it does take a village, and I do want to thank some people. So I want to thank my gallery assistant, Jeremiah Mrazek, and I want to thank my May Show gallery assistant, Lisa Rushman. I also want to give special thanks to Maddie Cooper, Becky Grasser, Margot Jeanchild, Carol Licola, Barbara Martin, and Tony Parenti, John Sargent, Barb Jacob Schmidt, Deborah Silver, Dan Simone, and Caitlin Sullivan. John Sargent is an exhibitor in this exhibition, but he also helps me with installing the shows. So I do want to thank all of them for their help because I could not have done it without you. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the show. We're going to talk about some of the art. I'll point out the prize winners, and I hope you enjoy the exhibition. The exhibition is up on display at Lakeland Community College. We're located in Kirtland, Ohio, on Route 306, just south of the I-90 interchange. The show is open through July 15th, 2022. Our gallery hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturdays, we are open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we are closed on Sundays. And obviously, we will be closed for 4th of July. So thanks a lot for coming along, and I hope you enjoy the exhibition. This first piece is done by Christina Walter. It's entitled Family Dinner Number 6, and it's oil on canvas. I just discovered that Christina is an alumni of the Cleveland Institute of Art. So today, the newsletter came out with the people who are exhibiting in the show, so there's a few people who I will be mentioning as fellow alumni. Okay, this beautiful cobalt glass piece is done by Zach Gorell. It's called Blue Platter, and he is the technical assistant over at the Cleveland Institute of Art. Photography I thought this year was well represented. This is a photograph by Charles Mintz entitled The Snowy Day, Washington, D.C. Inkjet Print. Okay, this painting by Christina Walter, Family Dinner Number 4, Oil on Canvas, received the Best in Show Award, which is a $1,500 cash award, and Christina teaches art at Shaker Heights High School. Okay, here's another photograph by Charles Mintz entitled The Flower Man, Evansville, Indiana, inkjet print. And then this boat-shaped glass piece by Zach Gorell is entitled Pirogue, I think. It's glass. I apologize, Zach, if I mispronounced that. And Zach is the studio manager of the CIA glass department. Here's another piece by Christina Walter, Family Dinner Number 5, Oil on Canvas. I do want to point out that what the judge did this year, which was a little different, is she did choose sometimes groupings of pieces of work where she chose more than one or two pieces because she just felt that these were works that she wanted to give special attention to. And she said the prizes went to those pieces that made me curious to see more by these artists and how their work will develop. And she thanked all the artists and wished them good luck to all who submitted their work. Okay, the last piece in this first room is entitled Lily's Move and is created by Susan Hood, and this is oil on canvas. This is the work of James Hall. This is called Majestic Mountain Glow, Oil on Canvas. James is one of the new artists to the May Show. What I thought was very interesting this year is that more than 50 60% of the artists that applied and submitted work to the May Show were new artists to the May Show. So I feel that it created a show that is a little bit, is new, it's fresh, it's not the usual suspects getting in, and it wasn't the usual suspects receiving awards. So that's why I'm very happy that this is a different collection this year. These next two pieces, these assemblage pieces, were created by Deborah French. This first one is called Little Wood Scrap Houses, and it's wood houses on walnut. And then the next piece is called Parcel Post, and it is a collage, but it is a collage of cardboard and wood and scrap pieces. And then there we go with those incredible shadows that are just a gift from the different light sources that are hitting this piece. Okay, to continue in this room, which is loosely an abstract composition room, are three pieces by Patty Flauto. The first one, these are all acrylic on canvas. The first one is entitled Facade. The second is Semblance of Order. And the third is Beguiling. Then we have another piece here by Nancy Halbrooks. It's called Puzzled. It's a decorative paper collage. Nancy is recently retired from teaching at Lorain County Community College. She's an active paper maker, and she's also my neighbor. Now these three pieces, it's fun for me to show the work of Russell Stefanchik. I have known Russell and his work for decades, but when I knew him in the beginning, he was a jeweler. He is I believe he is a graduate of the Institute of Art. So these three pieces are assemblage pieces. They are made with recycled materials, mixed media. The first one is entitled Assemblage Number 1. The second is Assemblage Number 6. And the third one is assemblage number 5. Okay, this next glass piece, leaded glass piece, is done by an artist named Susan Shoby, electric stained glass lantern, stained glass. She actually has a studio in the Stella's Art Gallery, which is in downtown Willoughby. But I did want to kind of point out to reinforce how I designed the installations for the show, that every piece is contingent on the piece next to it. So if you look to the left of this piece, you see Russell Stefanchik's pieces with the corrugated cardboard and the ridging, and then you've got these beautiful glass pieces inserted into this. So every piece in the exhibition there's a reason why it's in one spot, and like I said, I create a visual storyline of the exhibition that you'll notice or kind of pay attention to, obviously as I'm giving you the tour, because you were seeing it as kind of as how I envisioned it, how I designed the installation. Okay, this next piece is created by Will Wilson. He received a Jurors Award, which is a $500 cash award. It's called Porcelain Rabbit, Acrylic Oil on Canvas. And what kind of intrigues me about this piece are the different levels, the different applications of paint, the fact that he rendered the rabbit almost realistically, where you're getting the tattoo quality on the surfaces, but you get the idea that it's a smooth surface, and then you have these kind of cartoon, almost Keith Haring type shapes that are outlined in black, and then you've got this free, very expressionistic brushstroke in the back. So you've got like 3 levels of painting going on, and I just realized there is a skull on the ear of the rabbit. That's bonus points for me. Okay, this next abstract piece is created by Haley Kavoda. It's entitled Inmost Nature. It's acrylic on panel. The next 2 pieces were created by Marty Higgins, and these are mixed media on canvas. The larger piece is called Books I Read, or maybe Books I Read. Gee, I don't know. It's one of those things in the English language. It's either read or read. Then the smaller piece is entitled The One You Choose. And again, both of these pieces are mixed media on canvas. Okay, the last piece in this inner room, as we go into the interior of the art gallery, is by Raymond Bugelski, and it's entitled Michelle, and this is acrylic on MDF. Okay, this is a acrylic on canvas piece by Michael Bachnick entitled Ghosts in the Machine. This is the final abstract piece that's included in the exhibition. This is a piece by Jack St. John. I was just so glad to see him return to the gallery as he has exhibited with us before. And this is entitled Dreams of Debris and Fungus, and this is mixed media on paper. Okay, these next two pieces were created by Rochelle Dennis. The first one is called Drowning in Space, and this is a linoleum relief print. I'm actually quite drawn to the subject matter and then the unusual color palette too, and the surreal quality that the artist was able to achieve. And then next to it is another piece of Rochelle's calling Losing You to the Undergrowth. This is linoleum relief print and then encaustic. So the orange that you're seeing in there is actually hot wax that was applied afterwards as an accent. And being a printmaking minor, I've done screen printing, I've done linoleum relief prints. I can appreciate the integrity and the expertise it takes to do this kind of color registration where the colors line up and to create the composition. And then of course it's the subject matter that we are all too familiar with right now. Okay, these next two pieces were created by Nancy Lick. Nancy teaches over at Notre Dame College in South Euclid, Ohio. She was instrumental in helping me when I was teaching there a few years ago. So thank you, Nancy, for welcoming me into the faculty and helping me out with some of my technical issues. So these two pieces, this is some new work for her, figurative work, but she's doing monotypes and collage, and I'm really quite drawn to the graphic quality of these, how she starts with the black and white and then adds the little bits of color to them to add the spark. Okay, this next piece is also by Nancy Lick. It's called Mikhail, and it is a monotype collage. And again, what I appreciate about these pieces is the large scale of these, because to do a monoprint or monotype collage, this scale kind of takes some technical ability in addition to the aesthetic that's necessary. What do they say? Good things come in small packages. This is a painting by Merrill Herring called Icebox. It's oil paint on muslin, and it is a small scale work that invites you to come up to it and to give it the attention that it needs. I really enjoy including quiet pieces like these that just begs you to come up for another look, a closer look. Okay, this is one of the few sculptures that was accepted into the exhibition. This is created by Ron White, and this is clay and paint, and it's called Pressure. And it was fun because a bunch of us saw this piece being worked on when he was sharing it, works in progress on Facebook, on social media. So it's always fun for me as a curator to see work in progress and then to actually have the privilege to see it up close and personal. And it's just the whole thing, the pressure, the shattered face, the pulling out of his brain, the pulling his head apart. It's just the angst in the face, how he is able to encapsulate such emotion and such power into his sculptures is what's so impressive to me. Okay, this is a wall of photographs. The first photograph was created by Michael Gerbino, and this is an inkjet pigment print entitled Cowboys Fans. Okay, some of you from this area might recognize the artist who took this photograph. This is the work of Bill Pappas. He's been active in the art community for decades, and I'm glad to see him also in the show again. This is photography, and it is entitled A Kind of Intensity. Okay, the third photo on this wall was also created by Michael Gerbino, and it is an inkjet pigment print entitled Jesus Loves You. Okay, this is one of the very few sculptures in the show. This was created by an artist named Rick Rollenhagen. It's entitled Athena and it's carved out of marble. This is the first time he has entered the May Show. I have been trying to encourage him for years, and I tell every artist who ever considers submitting to any juried show out there, you have a 100% chance of not getting into an exhibition if you don't apply. So I was very pleased that Rick finally decided to apply, and then he got his piece into the show. So congratulations. And I want to congratulate all the artists who submitted work and all the artists whose work were included in this exhibition here at Lakeland. This is one of the few textile pieces in the exhibition. This was created by Diane Thayer Miller. Diane is also an alumni of the Cleveland Institute of Art. This is an upcycled yarn piece entitled Keith, and I'm looking forward to see what she creates for me in 2024, as I'm going to be curating a textile fiber show here in the gallery in September of 2024, so stay tuned for that. This next painting is another award-winning painting. This received a $500 cash award, Jurors Award. This was created by Michael Backnick. It's entitled The Assignment, and this is acrylic on canvas. Okay, this next piece was created by Tina Janik. Tina is also a graduate of the Cleveland Institute of Art. This is the first time she has exhibited with us. This is an acrylic on canvas. It's entitled Magazine, and if my memory serves me correctly, she came here the night of the reception with her husband and her baby in a baby stroller. So we had one of our youngest visitors to the gallery getting their in-person art fix. Okay, this next work is actually a 4-panel piece. This is created by Meryl Herring, and she received a Jurors Award, a $500 cash award for this grouping of paintings. And these are called Rose-Colored Glasses and Oil on Canvas. And all I can say is this is another one of those cases where if you can come in to see the exhibition and see the work for yourself in person, I think it's well worth the time and effort, because I just feel that sometimes you need to see these pieces up close. You need to see the nuances of the color, of the brush stroke. And with these 4 pieces, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting sentimental. Maybe I'm getting sentimental because of what's been happening in the world. But you know, to see how she's captured the innocence of the children, you know, as life through rose-colored glasses, because without making too much of a social commentary right now, we know how that's been changing for so many people at the drop of a dime. Okay, the last piece on this wall was created by Wally Kaplan. This is oil on canvas, and it's entitled Weight of the World. Okay. This is a sculpture piece by Denise Buckley. This is ceramic, and it's called They Three. And Denise won a Jurors Award, a $500 cash award for this series of three sculptural busts. Okay, this triptych was created by Judy Takis. Judy is also a graduate of the Cleveland Institute of Art. This is called Necessary Evil Triptych. It's oil on linen, and can always count on Judy to do these incredible compositions. She's got a mastery of anatomy, the mastery of color, that red in the background in contrast with the apples, and then the surfaces of the copper, the reflections, and then those crazy bugs, those crazy grasshoppers, and you know, holding the sun up, and then you've got this woman creature with the horns. So that must be the necessary evil. So this is quite a compelling, interesting composition. Okay, this part of the gallery somehow has become the Gwen Waite wall. In the last few shows, the last woman shows, her work seems to always gravitate to this point, and she's been winning awards all over the place, and she won a $500 Jurors Award also for this piece that you're seeing called Model Minority, which is found object assemblage. boy, I don't even know where to start on this piece. Between the wonderful, absolutely yummy shadows on the bottom and the ice picks and the different pieces part that she uses, and she's talking, she's dealing with what's happening in this culture right now about the discrimination and the aggressions towards people of Asian descent. She's part Asian, and she has experienced discrimination. She has experienced some aggression from other people because of what's going on in our country right now, and I appreciate that she is able to kind of incorporate this, encapsulate what's happening to her into her art, so that maybe somebody might take a moment and look at this and go, oh, I don't think I realized how that might impact you, or how that must make you feel. Okay, this is another piece by Gwen Waite and a found art assemblage called Folklore. I honestly think that Gwen is probably one of the best, if not the best, assemblage artist, mixed media found object artist in the region. The pieces that she incorporates into her works, how she incorporates them, I can't even imagine what her studio must look like. And what I'm seeing, and you can see with these three pieces, there's a lot of faucets out there that have no sprockets on them, so it looks like that she's been hitting the hardware stores to find some of her pieces. But I just love how she incorporates the different pieces, the different textures, and some of them are pristine and some of them are decorative, and she's the master of putting pieces together that you would never consider to put together, to collaborate, to be in concert with each other, and it works. Okay, this is another piece by Gwen Waite, another found object assemblage. Where Are You From? Again, absolutely phenomenal shadows that are being achieved, and I just love the pieces parts. She's got the Iowa and the ice picks and the figures, and then she's got the things with the corn, the corn on the cob holders, and I don't know if it's coming up on the if you can see this, but on the side it looks like kind of like AstroTurf that was put on the sides of the piece itself. So I just love how she thinks about all of her surfaces, all of the directions, all of the points of view that you will be looking at her piece, and I just think she just does some incredible artwork, and I'm just so happy that she entered again this year and that she won a prize. Okay, these two pieces of ceramic sculpture were created by Teresa Yondo. It's entitled Cacti and Succulent, and it is stoneware slip and glaze. And I do want to point out that actually Teresa's very first degree was here at Lakeland, and that she also taught clay up at Lakeland years and years ago before I arrived. But what's fun about this, besides the imagery and the fun shadow that's cast on the wall, what's exciting to me as a curator is that she just started doing this series, and she had a few of these cacti pieces in the Woman's Show that I curated in March. And when she brought them in, I said, Teresa, you need everything, and you should be doing. You should be starting at 12 to 18 inches. So then, it's like go big or go home. So now she's doing the larger scale pieces. She's injecting pieces of metal wire that she actually fires into the pieces. And she just finished wood firing some pieces over in Peninsula, Ohio. So I'm excited to see how those turned out for her. This large-scale triptych was created by Mark Giancaspero. He has been a pretty constant exhibitor in the May Show. He did win Best in Show a few years back. When this piece came in, everybody that was here, all the volunteers are saying, oh, we know which piece Mary likes. If you guys have been paying attention, you know that I'm the queen of skull and skeletons. You know that I curate a skull and skeleton and art show here in the gallery at Lakeland, and I'm already working on the one for 2023, as I always do it. This show odd years, pun intended, but I was just so happy when I saw this piece being worked on. Again, this is another piece that he was sharing works in progress on social media, and I kind of chimed in and said, gee, I hope this one's coming my way. And I told him if for some reason it didn't get into the May show, it would definitely have a home in my Skull and Skeleton show. So what impresses me about Mark's work, besides the scale, is just he is the quintessential draftsman. The dude knows how to draw. He knows how to do the figure and look at the hands and the foreshortening on the fingers and the veins, and then the T-shirt with the folds on it, and the contrast between the flesh and the T-shirt, and then the facial hair, and then the expression on the hair. And then what's fun is that he's taken kind of the fun graphic quality of the sugar skull and kind of made them into the panels on the side with the graphic detailing, which is unusual for me to see this in his work. So I like the combination of the flat pattern graphic with the super hyper realism of how he renders his figures. And again, this is a commanding piece, and this is a piece you need to come in and see for yourself with your own eyes. Okay, this fun sculpture was created by Luann Bull-Becker, and it's an assemblage, found object sculpture called When Dreams Were Born. And I just really love how she puts her things together. The different pieces parts, the tricycle and the little streamers on the side, and how she's tugging on your heartstrings by what she's showing here. And then she talks about when dreams were born, when we were young children and didn't have a care in the world. And then she's got those hanging little the glass balls with the little scenarios inside of them, which are kind of like the personification of a thought bubble. And then what I appreciate as the curator, as someone who installs the show, that she thought about all the different aspects of the piece, that you can walk around it and see it from different perspectives, but then she put those little bars on the wheels so that the bicycle couldn't take its own little hiatus and go running around the gallery, kind of like remember the movie, The Night at the Museum? I could see this piece kind of picking itself up and tricycling all over the gallery. But sorry, I'm being a little silly, but that's what I thought of when I saw this piece, if this piece could talk. Okay, this is our lone piece of jewelry. This is sterling silver. It was created by Pam Pastoric, who is another CIA alumni, and this is called My Guardian Fibula Pin Pendant, and it's fabricated sterling. Pam is one of the probably one of the most well-known jewelers in this area, and I'm just so glad that she did enter a piece and that we could show the work and the jewelry metal piece, because there's something to me about fabricating the sterling and carving it and engraving it and etching it that I find very intriguing, possibly because I was a printmaker and I'm used to dealing with the plates and acid etching them and engraving them, so it's kind of nice to see it refined as a piece of jewelry, as a piece of wearable art. Okay, this is a painting by Douglas Man Ray, entitled The Hospital at 4 a.m. This is oil on canvas, and it's just nice to see that Doug returned again to the May show. It seems like some artists kind of cycle in and out, and it was just nice to see a piece like this, and also how the composition is a little askew and how it's rendered, which is just a little bit different, because so many of these other pieces are so almost hyper realistic, super realistic. It's kind of nice to see something that's a little bit more almost abstract expressionist in its application of the paint. Okay. This is another artist who made a triumphant return to the May show. This is Todd Hoke. He's also an Institute of Art graduate, and this is mixed media on wood called Back in 1988. And what's fun is how he's built up the bas-relief with the pieces of the cut wood, and then how he rendered the imagery onto the wood, and the contrast between the painted surface and the background surface. I just find this very dramatic and very intriguing. Okay, this is a piece by Anne Dumont. entitled Oil on Canvas, called The Attitude. Anne is one of the artists that shows in the Cooperative in downtown Willoughby at Stella's Art Gallery. And I'll speak a little bit about Stella's at the end of my talk here, because we are taking pieces that were accepted into the May show that didn't fit into this collection figuratively and just the way as far as the spacing. So we are taking a collection of work to Stella's Art Gallery, and it's called the May Show Extended View. Heidi Weller is also a new artist to the collection here in the May Show. So like I said, I was so pleased to be able to meet so many artists at the reception, and I was so glad that Jeremiah, my assistant, and my friend Barbara Martin took photos of them with their pieces, so I can now start to put faces with names. But this is an oil and cold wax piece, and it's called The Man on the Bus. Okay, you might recognize the style of this artist. This is Tricia Common. Tricia is one of the premier portrait painters in Northeast Ohio. She has a studio in the schoolhouse down in Murray Hill, and she owned the company where anytime you went to an amusement park and had a caricature done or a quick sketch, it was her company called Common Art Shops that hired artists all over the country, because for all the different amusement parks and attractions. And she single-handedly, with her husband and her company, encouraged hundreds of artists over the years. And this is actually it's called a sketch of Kim Matee, and Kim is a jewelry artist that I've known for decades, and Kim lives in Chagrin Falls, and she teaches jewelry at the Valley Arts Center. Okay, this is another photo by Bill Pappas, and you might recognize the subject matter. This is it's entitled Jules Shipped. This is an artist named Jules. Jules is his muse. You will often see Bill photograph things and incorporate Jules into the composition. And ironically, Jules used to teach here at Lakeland too. So it's kind of like an all in the family type thing. And this is fun because it's a little bit different kind of portrait for him. And it's Jules shipped with the shredding and packing materials. And I can relate to that because my very first gallery job in 1979 was doing packing and shipping for American Crafts Gallery, and we carried art from people all over the country. So for me, it was like Christmas every day to open a box and see what was inside. Although I can honestly say, I never opened a box to find a head looking back at me. So. Okay, this is a trio of sculptures by prize winner Denise Buckley. These are ceramic and steel, and they are entitled Queens. And what's nice about these is the surface texture and the glazed surfaces that she has achieved. And these are very simple but very powerful sculptures. And again, it's kind of, I like the way that the cast shadows kind of like almost like makes the entourage. If these are the queens, then the shadows are her subjects. Okay, another new artist to the collection. This is Valerie Todi, and it's entitled In West Philadelphia, Born and Raised, and it's actually string art and wood. Gosh, we all remember doing the string art and doing the things that kind of look like a kaleidoscope or a mandala. So this was a fun little piece, with the strings and then painting of the background. So this was kind of a fun piece. And then of course, the color-wise, it worked so well with the piece next to it. Okay, this is another piece by Will Wilson. I'm going to take a stab on this. It's spelled D-O-G-E, and I'm thinking it's meant to be doggy, but I'm not sure. I don't know if there's supposed to be some kind of language innuendo or something with this. But this is oil on wood panel, and I just think it's kind of a fun, surreal portrait. Okay, I felt compelled to add this. One of my videographers extraordinaire, Phil, just told me that in the animation internet world that this would be pronounced as Doge. So I'm considering myself schooled, and thank you, Phil, for adding this little nuance, because this is all meant to be an educational experience, so thank you very much, all kidding aside. And I could be wrong. Okay, these next two paintings were created by another new artist to the May Show. This is Maya McDonald. The left is called Self-Portrait, Oil on Wood Panel. And the one on the right is called Milo, also oil on wood panel. And there's something about this piece with Milo. You're getting this uplifting to it, like the dancing, the intense look on his face. But I really enjoy how she didn't finish all the detailing on the hands, and then the background is a little bit more expressionistic, so it almost feels like he is uplifting, like he's gonna rise at any moment, and basically the gravity is barely holding him onto the earth. Okay, this is a piece by Karen Maisel. Karen has exhibited in my Women's Show. She's been in the May Show before, but this is a really sweet little piece, a collage and painting called Look Up. I love all the pieces parts. I love all the little details. Some of them are painted, some of them are found things that she puts together, but I just have a respect for artists that can do collage. My brain doesn't work that way. Being a silkscreen printer and a pattern designer where everything has to have an ordered space, I am just amazed and impressed by any artist that can work this way. This is a piece by Rachel Rivas Plata. It's an encaustic painting called Heavy, and it's just an interesting surface, and then you've got that intense expression on the woman's face. This is a new to us artist, Cynthia Petrie. Wax, pennies, paper, and hair. I never asked. I wish I had asked her more about this piece. There's something about this that I find so compelling. Well, first of all, I started sewing when I was in 7th grade. I made my sister's wedding dress when I was 16, but so I can appreciate the fact that she's using the collage of the pattern pieces, but then she's got these buttons that have the photographs of the women, and then she's got that little ball of hair up there with that teeny tiny little wishbone in it. So this is one of those pieces that begs the question, so the title says I never asked, and I think it should say, but I wish I had. I would love to know more. I'd love to know the story behind this piece. Okay, this is another piece of Cynthia Petrie. Cynthia, I'm sorry, I should have asked for confirmation of your name. It's called Spoon-Fed Lies 3, Spoons, Photo Collage, Mixed Media. And basically what has done is she's taken some vintage photo and she has applied them and collaged them onto sterling silver spoons. And when it talks about spoon-fed lies, again, this is one of those pieces that were, as a viewer, as another artist, I wonder what were the lies? What are their stories? Were they fed lies so that they wouldn't question something? Did they have to speak lies to protect themselves? So this is one of those very compelling, intriguing pieces that I wish I knew more of the backstory on this. And this is what's interesting about any work in an art show. So you don't always have an artist statement to back up what you're seeing, and so you're only reacting to the superficial aesthetic, what they are visually presenting to you. But again, this is just one of these pieces that are it's just like, I want to know more. Okay, this is a painting by Rita Schoenemann. She was one of the artists over at the Artcraft building, and for those of you who were regular visitors to their annual show at the holiday time, you will recognize what this is. This is a painting of the freight elevator. This is a painting entitled Freight Elevator Fred in His Comfort Zone. It's oil on canvas. He was such a character that kind of added to the whole mystique of the Artcraft building, and he decorated his little space, which was the elevator. He operated the freight elevator in the back of the building. Everybody knew him, and then I was informed that unfortunately he's no longer with us. So this is kind of like a memorial to Fred and for all of us artists who dealt with him, and how many times he would bring us up and down on those elevators. This is an interesting to me kind of graphic collage type piece. It's created by Scott Kranek. He's actually a ranger. He's also a painter, illustrator, and he is an author. He created a book called The Heart of Cleveland, and he's working on another book that will be coming out soon that will be identifying artists from the region. So this is just a really kind of a fun piece. It's called Goya Through Scott's Eyes. This is a very famous composition by the artist named Goya, and this is was created in colored pencil and mixed media on paper. And so basically the inspiration came from the image, which is kind of like the bottom left quadrant of this composition, where it has the figure kind of in repose with their head down, with their arms over their head, and how he integrated pop culture images of skulls, my favorite, aliens and crazy monsters, and then you've got Elvis and a devil. So it's got a little bit of everything. If you've been paying attention over the years, you'll recognize the work of Betty Skufka. She does this work where she calls it, her style called dotalism, where she does all the little dots of color. She paints the figure, she paints the frame, so it all kind of integrates together. This is oil on canvas board, and it's called Hair News, and I just have to put out my honor and respect for this woman. She's 94 years old. She paints every day. She's one of my sheroes, and I hope that she's around for many years to come, because I'm just so impressed that she can take time out of her day and work in her studio, and that's what keeps her going. Okay, this is a piece by Andy Tubasing. He's acrylic on paper. This is called House of Silence on Bent Gravity Road. It's fun for me to see a two-dimensional painting piece, because last year's piece he did a video with painting, and it was looping of a sound, a soundtrack. So it's kind of fun to see the contrast in what he submitted last year to what came this year. And then it's just the composition and the figures and the cast shadows, I think, are pretty incredible. Okay, this is again another new artist to the May Show. This is Lou Camerado, and this is acrylic and assemblage called Empty Houses. So it's kind of, I like the fact that he incorporated the old window and the frame with the lock on it, and then he's got the different layers of the distressed wood, he's got the painting, and then he did some text that's kind of written out on the frame of the piece itself. So there's so many yummy tactile surfaces to this piece. Okay, this is a photography piece by Mark Simone, and this is entitled South African Bikers. Okay, these next two pieces were painted by John Troxel. These are oil on canvas, and the left one is entitled East 9th. The other one is No Turn on Red. I just like the fact, they're cityscapes. For me, East 9th Street holds a little bit of nostalgia to it. My parents owned a bar and restaurant called Stone's Grill, which was on East 9th Street, just south of Huron on the west side of the street. So going up and down East 9th Street was something that I did many years in my youth. And then the one on the right, where it's kind of like the night scene, and you're going into the city and you see the cityscape in the background. I just really enjoy the treatment and the time of day and the color intensity and that he was able to achieve in this composition. Okay, here's two more pieces by James Hall. These are both oil on canvas. The left is entitled Before the Rain. The one on the right is Monument Sky. Like I said, he's a new artist to the May Show. He walked in with this work. I'm like, where have you been hiding? Just the compositions, the one on the left, the ethereal, ephemeral effect of the water and the vanishing point, and the subtleties of the color and the sky. And then you've got the one next to it with the water and the reflections of the clouds and the vista view, and you get this feeling that this painting, you're seeing something that goes off miles and miles into the distance. So I just guess they're traditional landscapes, but I think they're just incredibly well executed, and they're beautiful compositions. This is one of those things. Remember that issue of that episode of Night Gallery where the guy wanted to jump into a painting? I would love to jump into these paintings and walk along the pond or this lake and just sit there and have the sun on my face, because these are just beautiful, almost meditative compositions. This next grouping of work was created by Stuart Pearl. These are color photographs. The one on the left is Snow Swept Grasses 6049. Then we have Desolate Maumee 6075 Crop, and Out on Stage Maumee color photograph. And I guess it's nice to see these pieces after the crazy, scorching, brain-searing heat we've had the last couple days. So these are kind of refreshing to see these, the composition, and then obviously of the snow, which we just got through with, and now it's going to be coming in a few more months. But sorry, I don't mean to hasten the process. Okay, these next two pieces were created by Robin Borer. She is a plein air painter, and plein air painting is someone who actually goes out, sets up her easel on site and paints on site, and takes into consideration the changing of light, the environmental issues that she's doing, but it also causes or creates a situation where you have to capture as much as you can as quickly as you can, because the light is fleeting. So this piece on the left is entitled Old Sacred Places, Trinidad, California, and it's oil plein air a la prima. And the piece next to it is Going on Sunset in New Mexico, and that is oil on board. Okay, this is a piece by Jeannie DeBonis, and this is entitled January Morning. This is a 7-color reduction lino cut. Let me just explain real quickly about this, the whole technique of this. A lino cut is something where you start off with your plate that you ink, you figure out how many pieces you want of your edition, and you print everything with that color. Then you actually cut away from the piece of linoleum, and what's left over, you then print that and ink it up, have the color, and you put it in, you print that color. Then you wipe it off, you cut away again, and you print it with another color. So this takes absolute spot on alignment of the pieces. It's the planning ahead to know that certain things are going to fall certain ways, and sometimes you want the colors to overlap itself. Like I said, the registration is what I call sick, because it has to be so precise, and this is such a beautiful organic image. And when I saw that this was a reduction lino cut, it's like props. I totally am impressed with this process. It's something I never did as a printmaker, but I can appreciate all the work, the technique, and all the thinking and planning ahead of time when you're doing something like this. Because once the plate has been cut away, you can't go back. It's gone. There's nothing left but the last color that you printed. So like I said, this is just a very interesting kind of like it kind of looks like a seascape or on the plains of a field or something like that. Okay, this is a oil on canvas with holes created by John A. Sargent III, entitled The Question. John is one of my installation assistants. Of his help has been invaluable to me in the past year and a half since he's working with us. I love the large scale paintings that he does. I love the format, the composition, and it's kind of interesting how his pieces seem to show up in this hallway on these walls, because I always need a large scale piece to kind of break the cadence of the pieces or create insert a change in the color, the scale, or the composition. But Again, this is just one of those, his works are always very thought-provoking. And the reason he says holes, and I don't know if they're going to pick this up on the video, but on the bottom edge is a square that he cut out and kind of pushed it back and then kind of like built around it. So it kind of makes like a little indented square in the composition. And so it's kind of one of those fun little accidents. It's like, oh, whoa, what's this about? I was introduced to this work of Dennis Mastrangelo a few years ago. This is actually cut paper. This is Reflections of a Road Trip. And when I first looked at this, I thought this was a limited palette screen print. Because, you know, for me, when I was working in screen prints, everything had a very sharp edge, everything had a very distinct shape. So then when I realized that this is hand-cut paper to create these compositions, I love the concept. I love using the flat color, but yet he's still able to create the depth of space, you know, the reflection on the camera lens and looking through the window into the background, into the landscape in the background. I just think it's kind of a fun juxtaposition of flat and 3D and the shapes and the surfaces just make for a very intriguing composition. Okay, this is a infrared photograph created by Zachary Hoon, and this is entitled Serenity. Zachary runs Gallery Plus, which is a gallery over at the West 78th Street complex, obviously on the west side of Cleveland. It used to be the building itself used to be the think tank for the American Greeting group. So when you think about if those walls could talk, although maybe they shouldn't, but all the creativity that has gone on in that building. And so he has a gallery where he has some artists that exhibit with him on a regular basis. And he's located on the first floor of 78th Street. So, and they do their third Friday, every third Friday, and it's free and it's open to the public. Okay, here's another limited color palette piece of cut paper by Dennis Mastrangelo, and this is Picture Postcards. And again, it's just nice to see something that's quiet and limited color palette and limited grayscale, and yet you can see the nuance of the colors of the grays, of the taupes in the background, and again, it's the different layers that he's getting from the postcards in the envelopes to the shooting star in the background. I just find these very interesting, compelling compositions. This is a oil on canvas piece by Barbara Bangert entitled Casper. I just really enjoy the color palette. She's got the complementary colors of the purple and the yellow and the very surreal quality of what are these people looking up at. Like I said, I love the surrealist aspect to the piece, and again, she's a new artist to the collection, so I'm grateful and happy and pleased to see new work by new artists. It's always fun as a curator to discover new artists, and I look forward to seeing what all of the artists in my shows do in the future. Okay, this is a ceramic sculpture by Donald Stewart. He actually won one of the awards last year for his ceramic pieces. It's kind of like a totem piece in that it was created in pieces and then put together. It's ceramic and it's entitled Two Musicians. Okay, this is a painting by Timothy Heron. Timothy won a Jurors Award, a $500 cash award for his painting Oil on Canvas, Jack's Sports Bar, and he's known for his plein air painting too, where you'll see him out in the neighborhoods of Cleveland painting away, and I just, for this one it's kind of interesting because he's got the building, he's got the graffiti on the side, he's got the that crazy background with the orange and yellow, which obviously went perfect with the Don Stewart sculpture next to it. He's got the fighters, dropping their bombs, and then you've got these. I don't know if you noticed, you've got these two skunks in front of the building, And so I just think this is one of those surreal kind of compositions that is it's just kind of fun. I love the color palette and the surrealistic nature to this. Okay, the last piece I'm going to be talking about, this is a oil on canvas by Diane Prigozhin. She's also an Institute of Art graduate, and this painting is called High Noon. Thank you so much for accompanying me on the journey today for the 12th May show at Lakeland. I do want to also extend an invitation for you to come visit the May Show 2022 Extended View at Stella's Art Gallery. That show will be opens on June 10th and goes through July 2nd. It's located on Euclid Avenue, just outside of downtown Willoughby. There'll be an artist reception and awards ceremony on Friday, June 10th from 7 to 9, and then I get to choose the awards for this show. And so I will be presenting a few awards at 8 p.m. I'll be presenting a Best in Show. I'm not sure how many other pieces I'm going to be giving awards to. There's actually 55 pieces created by 40 artists that will be included in this collection of pieces. And then there will also be a People's Choice Award. So thank you so much for accompanying me today. Like I said, I can't stress enough, if you can come out and see the show, please do so. The show here at Lakeland is on view through July 15th. The show that's going to be at Stella's in downtown Willoughby, that's going to be up from June 10th to July 2nd. So I hope everybody has a great summer. I hope everybody takes the time to come out here and see the show. It's air conditioned, so maybe on a day that it's really hot outside and you need a respite inside the air conditioning, come in and visit with us. So thank you so much for accompanying me today, and have a great day.